There are people who, the moment they enter a room, shift the energy in a way that bends the rules of time. Their presence alone disrupts the logic of aging. It doesn't matter what their ID says or how many birthdays they've had, their energy tells a different story. It's not just about smooth skin or the absence of wrinkles. It's not just the way their body moves or how their eyes shine. It's something much deeper, something that can't be touched or easily defined. It's an inner lightness, a subtle frequency they radiate, a soul that hasn't been worn down by the years, but rather refined by the wisdom they've gained through them. And you can feel it. You can see it. It becomes undeniable. People might raise an eyebrow and ask, "Wait, that's your age? Are you serious?" And they mean it. It's not just a compliment. It's genuine confusion, because something about you breaks the expectations people have about what aging looks like. But deep down, you know the truth. It's not about genetics. It's not about strict diets or elaborate skincare routines. There's something else at play, something that no mirror can fully reflect. It's about inner coherence, a spiritual alignment. It's a way of being that nurtures you from the inside out, a life lived from the soul outward, rather than from appearances inward. Carl Jung once spoke of the path to individuation, the journey toward becoming whole. It's not a journey for the faint of heart. It's a process that strips away masks, confronts inner wounds, and eventually brings us face to face with our truest, most unfiltered selves. That kind of living purifies the soul. It detoxifies your very essence. And as strange as it may sound, that process has a physical effect. Because when people age rapidly, it's often not just biology, it's disconnection. Disconnection from who they are, from what they feel, from the life they wish they were living. They start to conform, to please others, to chase expectations, to fit into molds they never chose. And in doing so, they abandon parts of themselves. But those who appear ageless, who carry that unmistakable spark, they've made a different choice. They've chosen to remain loyal to their essence. They've chosen inner truth over outer approval. And that choice leaves a mark, not just on their spirit, but on their body. When you live in harmony with yourself, when you stop dragging the past behind you, when you stop resisting the present moment, your biology responds. Your face softens. Your eyes brighten. Your energy becomes lighter. Your mind no longer clings to bitterness, and your soul begins to heal and regenerate in ways no cream or workout ever could. Many believe that what ages us is simply the passage of time. But really, it's the weight of time that does the damage. It's the unspoken griefs, the silent regrets, the emotional baggage we carry year after year. It's the roles we force ourselves into, the masks we wear for so long that we forget what our true face looks like. It's the soul that forgets how to play, how to laugh freely, how to love without keeping score. Jung once said, "We do not grow old from the passing of years, but by deserting our soul." And he was right. The soul doesn't age. The soul doesn't wrinkle. The soul doesn't grow tired. And when you live from that place, from your soul, you can be 50, 60, 70 or more, and still radiate the same vitality you had in your 20s. It's a different kind of youth, one that others can sense, even if they can't quite explain it. It's a magnetic force, a silent glow, a quiet confidence that doesn't need to prove itself. You walk into a room, and people feel it. They may not understand what it is, but they know it's rare. They know it's real. This kind of youth isn't visible in the mirror. It's not something a camera can capture. It's not something you can post about. It's a vibration, a presence, a way of meeting life with awe even after you've been broken, even after the betrayals, the losses, the sleepless nights, especially after those things. Because true vitality comes not from having lived an easy life, but from having walked through darkness and still chosen light. It's not naivety, it's wisdom. It's having learned that life doesn't take your youth, it returns it, if you know how to live from your soul. So, no, this energy cannot be bottled or sold. It's not the result of luxury treatments or magical secrets. It's a way of living that keeps your spirit young, by staying curious, by being honest, by laughing deeply, by loving bravely. It's waking up every day and deciding to stay connected to the most authentic part of yourself, even when the world tries to pull you away from it. That is the real fountain of youth. Not a place, not a potion, but a practice, a choice to honor your soul every day. And when you do, something miraculous happens. Your years may continue to pass, but they will no longer define you. Because while the body may follow time's path, the soul always dances outside of it. Carl Jung once said that one of the greatest challenges for a human being is to make peace with their shadow. And it seems that those who look younger than their age have, in some quiet and unspoken way, done this deep inner work. They've descended into the depths of their own story. They've mourned the losses others chose to bury. They've healed wounds that previous generations didn't have the words to name. And from that courageous descent, they've emerged, lighter, more awake, more alive. True youth doesn't lie in denying the passage of time, but in the depth with which you walk through it. The people who fear aging the most are often those who wear the stress of that fear on their skin. But those who embrace each passing year with awareness and acceptance carry a glow, a light that doesn't dim with age, it becomes more luminous. Have you ever noticed how some older individuals seem wiser, gentler, more open, even more playful than people decades younger? That's not a coincidence. It's the natural result of surrendering to life instead of resisting it, of learning to live each stage fully, without clinging, without regret, without the pressure to be anything other than what they are. That kind of presence becomes a beauty that no makeup can create. It becomes a youth that no workout can manufacture. It's not something you train for, it's something you inhabit. The people who appear younger are often those who have forgiven deeply, who have released what they couldn't carry anymore, who have made the conscious choice not to grow bitter. They've cultivated the rare gift of seeing wonder where others only see repetition. And that simple shift in perspective transforms the body, lifts the spirit, and softens every step they take. Spiritual youth is a state of the soul, and the soul, when at peace, renews everything it touches. There's a subtle yet profound difference between being youthful and trying to look youthful. In one case, youth is a natural expression that flows outward. In the other, it's a mask, a costume, a performance. And the difference lies not in the body, but in the spirit. In many cultures obsessed with outward appearance, youth has been turned into a product, something to be bought, preserved, or performed. But real youth has nothing to do with creams or surgeries or filters. It's not about what you hide, but what you're brave enough to reveal. People who radiate youth from the inside aren't pretending. They're not trying to appear as anything other than what they are. What you see is the result of years spent in reflection, in stillness, in honest connection with what truly matters. Their glow is not artificial, it's earned. When you stop living from pressure and start living from love, everything in you shifts. When you no longer need to prove yourself, your body knows, your cells know, and others feel it. Jung might say that when you reconcile with your unconscious, the soul takes over. And when the soul is in the lead, there's no room for rigidity, for bitterness, for self-deception. Gives way to movement, the grace, and the life. People who seem younger aren't necessarily the ones who've had easy lives. In fact, it's often quite the opposite. They've endured deep sorrows, but instead of letting that pain harden them, they've used it to soften themselves. They've turned their wounds into wisdom, their burdens into bridges. That kind of inner softness, that compassion carefully nurtured, gives off a radiance that can't be faked. It's not about genetics. It's about awareness. It's not the body that rejuvenates the soul. It's the soul that rejuvenates the body. The most powerful kind of youth is not the one that looks back at you in the mirror. It's the one you feel when you wake up. It's the quiet sense that you are exactly where you need to be, that your emotions are clear, that your conscience is calm. That peace, the kind that can't be bought or bargained with, is the true mark of inner youth. We live in a world obsessed with halting time, with erasing its traces, with pretending to be what we no longer are. But the true transformation doesn't come from stopping time. It comes from transcending it. And that power belongs to the soul that has learned to look at its own shadow with kindness, the soul that no longer punishes itself for what didn't happen, the soul that has released inherited guilt, senseless expectations, repeated patterns. That kind of soul is beautiful, not for what it shows, but for what it emits. And many times, the people who seem the youngest are those who've shed the most weight, who've decided that wearing masks isn't worth it, who've realized that real beauty doesn't come from looking a certain way, it comes from being. When you're truly connected to your soul, you no longer feel the need to hide your age, because you understand that your value doesn't decline with the years, it deepens. It becomes more precise, more profound. Jung spoke of the soul as a whole that seeks to integrate all its parts. And when that integration happens, it shows. You can see it in someone's posture, in the tone of their voice, in the way they look at others without judgment, with softness, with presence. That is the youth the world forgets to talk about, the one that can't be bottled, branded, or sold. The youth that belongs to those who've made peace with who they are. And that kind of youth lasts. Spiritual youth has nothing to do with age. It has everything to do with presence, with compassion, with the freedom you carry within you. And that kind of youth, it never grows old. We all have a mirror in our homes, one that shows us our face, our skin, our hair. But there's another mirror, far more powerful, that we almost never look into. The mirror of the soul. That mirror doesn't reflect your appearance. It reflects what you carry inside. It doesn't reveal wrinkles. It reveals wounds. Some open, some healed. It doesn't tell you how you look. It tells you how you are. Whether you're truly living or merely surviving. Whether you're flowing with life or resisting it. And when someone appears young, when their face glows, their eyes shine, their energy feels light, even if the calendar tells a different story. Often, it's because their inner mirror is clean. It isn't fogged by resentment. It isn't cracked by guilt. It has been lovingly polished over time, with forgiveness, with self-respect, with truth. To look younger is not always a superficial compliment. Sometimes, it's a sacred sign, a quiet revelation that you're in alignment with your true self, that you've stopped living out of obligation and started living from authenticity, and you can feel it, even if others can't quite explain it, even if they can't find the words. Some people unknowingly express their healing through their face, their body, their presence. They carry lightness, not because life has been easy, but because they've chosen to stay open, even through the pain. These are the people who bring peace into a room without saying a single word, who look at you with a kindness that holds no judgment, who seem to glow with something different. It's not youth, it's presence. Carl Jung spoke of the self, not the mask we wear, not the roles we perform, but the deep center of our being, the integrative core of the psyche. And he said, we access it not by pretending, not by escaping who we are, but by turning inward, by becoming honest with ourselves. When we get closer to that core, something within us shifts. We don't just feel younger, we remember who we really are. The soul, when listened to, beautifies everything it touches: your voice, your energy, your body, your way of walking through the world. People who seem younger than their age are often those who truly listen to themselves, who take care of their inner world, not out of fear, but out of love, who don't abandon themselves when life falls apart, who don't become hardened when things hurt, who, instead of shutting down, open wider because they've learned something profound. They've learned that real aging doesn't happen in the body. It happens in the spirit. And when the spirit is awake, it doesn't matter how many years pass, your light stays alive. That light, when it flows freely, even rejuvenates those around you. It's as if your soul, by shining, reminds others that they have a soul too, that they've simply forgotten. And that is a gift. So if you've ever wondered why you seem younger than others your age, maybe the answer isn't in your skincare routine, or your diet, or your DNA. Maybe the answer lies in your story, in how you lived it, in how you healed it, in how you refused to become bitter. Maybe without realizing it, you became someone who inspires, someone who reflects what so many have forgotten: that the soul does not age, that true beauty is a state of being, and that time can only take from you what you willingly surrender. But if you hold on to yourself, your truth, your presence, your light, then time becomes your ally, not your enemy. And you, just by being, become a living memory of something sacred. That real youth begins within and never truly fades. There's a quiet secret carried by those who seem to glow with youth, even as the years pass. It's not something found in creams or routines, nor in the desperate chase for time. No, it's something deeper, more profound. These people have learned the art of release. They no longer carry the burden of needing to please everyone, nor do they bend under the weight of others' expectations. They have stopped dragging along the guilt handed down through generations. At some point, they looked inward, really looked, and made a conscious decision to let go of everything that was never truly theirs to hold. Because growing old, in its truest sense, is not just a biological process. It's an emotional act. It's what happens when we let fear pile up like unspoken words in a room we refuse to enter. It's what happens when we treat resentment like a collection of trophies, polished and preserved, rather than healed and released. Aging happens when we refuse to change, to feel, to soften. When we close ourselves off to life's flow, its mystery, its movement. But those who appear younger, who seem to carry light in their eyes and ease in their step, have chosen a different way of living. They have chosen lightness, not because life has been gentle with them, but because they have mastered the quiet strength of not carrying what weighs down the soul. They have learned sometimes painfully, sometimes slowly, how to let go of what does not help them grow. And that choice, often invisible to the eye, but unmistakable to the heart, becomes a kind of inner alchemy. It softens their energy, lightens their presence, brightens their aura. Carl Jung once said that no one becomes enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And when a person dares to face their shadows, not with judgment or fear, but with compassion, something changes inside. The energy shifts. The heart becomes less guarded. There's a new kind of softness, a deeper kind of brilliance. It's as if every shadow embraced becomes a window, polished clean, reflecting a more honest soul. And this transformation doesn't go unnoticed. You can see it in the face, in the way someone moves, in the calmness of their gaze. There are people who carry a light that doesn't flicker, a presence that doesn't fade, a kind of beauty that can't be explained by symmetry or age. These people are not performing. They are simply living from a place of truth. And truth does not wrinkle. Truth does not age. Perhaps this is what real spirituality looks like, not the kind that seeks to ascend above life, to escape or transcend, but the kind that dives into the very heart of experience and reshapes it from within. This is the spirituality that forgives the past, that smiles at the scars which no longer sting, the one that chooses over and over again to live with awareness, with softness, with care. That kind of presence doesn't demand attention. It doesn't have to. When someone walks into a room with that kind of alignment, everyone feels it, even if they can't quite name it. It's the kind of youth that doesn't shout, because it already knows how to listen. And then suddenly, you realize, looking young isn't an accident, or a lucky genetic lottery, or some divine favor. It's the outward reflection of an internal alignment. It's the echo of having said no to resentment, to rigidity, to judgment, to guilt, to the fear of being fully, unapologetically yourself, and having said yes to the things that bring life to your spirit: emotional freedom, forgiveness, authenticity, kindness, curiosity, laughter, and the kind of silence that doesn't feel empty, but full, like a warm embrace from the universe itself. So if someone looks at you and says, "You don't look your age," don't just take it as a compliment about your skin or your appearance. Hear it as something deeper, a sign, a reminder that you're on the right path, that your soul is speaking honestly, that when the soul expresses itself with integrity, it can even transform the body. And if you're not there yet, if you still carry the weight of old wounds or fears, know this: it's okay. There's no expiration date on healing. It's never too late to begin again, to soften the hardness inside, to return home to yourself, to reconnect with the soul. Because in the end, true youth isn't something we lose, it's something we forget. But the moment we remember who we are beneath the noise, beneath the masks, beneath the stories we were told to believe, youth comes rushing back, not as a number, but as a state of being, a quiet radiance, a gentle power, a living truth. Sometimes it's not about how many years you've lived, but how much you've healed, how much you've let go, and how much light you carry within. The youth you see on the outside is often a reflection of the spiritual work within. Thank you for reading this far. If this video touched your soul, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and join me on future journeys towards self-knowledge. Leave me a comment. Has anyone ever told you that you look younger? Do you think your soul also vibrates with that energy? I'd love to hear from you. And if you know someone who radiates that spiritual youth, Share this video with them. Sometimes a small message can be a great mirror. See you soon. And remember, true beauty is that which never fades, that which is born from within. Imagine for a moment that you find yourself in a room of absolute silence. Everything around you seems calm, still, almost frozen in time. But within you, there is a noise, a constant murmur that refuses to be ignored. That sound is your unconscious mind trying to communicate something important, something essential for your well-being. Throughout our lives, we often dismiss this inner calling. The external world demands our attention. It is loud, urgent, and relentless. We get caught up in daily routines, social expectations, and the pursuit of success, all while neglecting the most fundamental aspect of our existence, our connection with ourselves. But what happens when this disconnection begins to take a toll on us? What happens when the noise inside grows louder, demanding to be heard? The renowned Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung dedicated his life to exploring these mysteries of the human psyche, and his message is clear. What you choose to nurture within yourself defines everything you experience in the external world. There comes a decisive moment in every person's life, a moment where we must choose between our inner peace and the relationships that surround us. It is not an easy decision. From an early age, we are conditioned to prioritize external acceptance, to mold ourselves into what society expects of us, often without fully understanding these expectations. We are taught that maintaining peace with others is an act of love. But Jung invites us to question this idea. How genuine is love when it requires sacrificing your authenticity? Every relationship we engage in leaves an imprint on our psyche. Some relationships uplift us, inspire us, and connect us to our true purpose. Others, however, drain us, make us feel insecure, and disconnect us from our essence. This emotional exhaustion is not random or accidental. According to Jung, it is the result of a deep misalignment between our conscious mind and our unconscious self. This disconnect happens when we ignore our inner signals, when we allow external pressures to dictate the course of our lives instead of listening to our own needs. Perhaps this has happened to you. You might be in a relationship that, on the surface, appears perfect. Others look at you and see harmony, stability, even happiness. Yet deep inside, there is a persistent feeling of discomfort, an unease that you cannot quite explain. That feeling is not a weakness, nor is it a flaw. It is your unconscious speaking to you, signaling that something is not aligned with your true nature. Ignoring these signals can lead to a state of chronic dissatisfaction, a condition where you slowly lose sight of your own desires and needs. Jung firmly believed that the unconscious does not communicate in direct language. It does not send you neatly worded messages. Instead, it speaks through symbols, dreams, and emotions. When something or someone begins to drain your energy, it is not a coincidence. It is an invitation to look deeper, to reflect on what part of yourself you are sacrificing to maintain that connection. Is it your peace, your self-worth, your authenticity? The real challenge, according to Jung, is not to avoid these situations, but to learn how to confront them. Analytical psychology teaches us that every conflict, whether internal or external, is an opportunity for growth. But to grow, we must first make a courageous decision to prioritize our inner peace above all else. This does not mean abandoning relationships altogether. It means learning to set boundaries, to say no when necessary, and to release what no longer serves us. Letting go is not easy. There is a natural resistance to leaving behind the familiar, even when we know it is harmful. This resistance comes from our shadow, the hidden part of ourselves that clings to the comfort of the known, even if it keeps us trapped in cycles of suffering. But Jung reminds us that true transformation happens when we face our shadow, not when we deny its existence. Integrating the shadow does not mean eliminating it. It means acknowledging it as a valuable part of ourselves. And every time you choose your peace over a relationship that depletes you, you are sending a powerful message to your unconscious. You deserve better. This seemingly small act has a profound impact on how you see yourself and on the kinds of relationships you attract in the future. When you align with your truth, when you honor your essence, the right people and experiences begin to appear, almost as if by magic. One of Jung's most powerful insights is that relationships act as mirrors to our soul. Everything that fascinates us, inspires us, or even irritates us in another person is, in reality, a reflection of something within ourselves. This concept can be difficult to accept, especially when dealing with relationships that seem to be the source of our unhappiness. But Jung invites us to look beyond the surface and ask, what is this experience trying to teach me? When you feel trapped in a draining relationship, the most common reaction is to blame the other person. But Jung believed that true power lies in self-exploration. Ask yourself, why am I allowing this dynamic to continue? What fear or insecurity is preventing me from letting go? These are not easy questions to answer, but they are essential for unlocking personal growth. The shadow plays a crucial role here. Many times, we are drawn to conflict-ridden relationships because those individuals represent aspects of our own shadow that we have not yet integrated. For example, a controlling partner might be reflecting your own lack of boundaries, while a critical friend might be highlighting an insecurity you carry within yourself. Recognizing these patterns does not mean accepting mistreatment. It means using these experiences as opportunities for transformation. Jung believed that personal growth does not happen in comfort. It happens in confrontation. This does not mean seeking out conflict, but rather having the courage to face uncomfortable truths about ourselves. When you choose your inner peace, you are not just letting go of what does not serve you. You are also facing your deepest fears: fear of emptiness, fear of loneliness, fear of change. Letting go is an act of immense courage. It requires a deep trust that something better is on its way, even if you cannot yet see it. Releasing is one of the most transformative steps in the journey toward authenticity. But letting go does not mean abandoning relationships or important situations. It means freeing yourself from what no longer resonates with who you are becoming. This process can be painful at first because it often requires shedding an old version of yourself, a part of your identity that you once clung to. However, in that empty space, in that void where something has been released, lies the greatest opportunity of all, the opportunity to be reborn, to rebuild yourself in a way that is more aligned with your true essence. Carl Jung taught us that when you choose to let go, you create space for new experiences, new people, and new opportunities to enter your life. It is much like tending to a garden. Before flowers can bloom, the weeds must be cleared away. This act of inner cleaning not only transforms your relationships, but also shifts the way you perceive yourself and the world around you. When you choose to prioritize your peace, something powerful happens. You begin to attract people and experiences that reflect that inner state. This is why choosing peace is not about avoiding conflict or running away from difficulties. On the contrary, the most meaningful relationships are often those that challenge us to grow, pushing us beyond our comfort zones. However, there is a crucial difference between a relationship that helps you become the best version of yourself and one that constantly drains your energy and pulls you away from your purpose. The key lies in discerning between the two and taking action accordingly. Jung emphasized the importance of listening to your intuition, that quiet, knowing voice that always has your best interest at heart. Intuition is not irrational. It is the language of the unconscious, a deep and ancient guide that connects you to your most profound truth. But to hear it, you must first learn to silence the external noise, to turn down the volume of distractions and expectations, and instead pay attention to your emotions, your dreams, and the subtle sensations in your body. These are the messages your unconscious uses to communicate what you need to know. When you choose peace, you are strengthening your connection with your intuition. You are sending a message to your unconscious mind that you trust it, that you value its wisdom, and that you are willing to act in alignment with your deepest truth. This choice not only enhances your emotional well-being, but also transforms the quality of your relationships. When you are at peace with yourself, you gain the clarity needed to set boundaries, to communicate effectively, and to attract relationships that are truly nourishing. Jung spoke extensively about the concept of the shadow, the hidden aspects of ourselves that we prefer to ignore because they do not fit the image we want to present to the world. But these suppressed parts of us do not simply disappear. In fact, the more we repress them, the stronger they become, often manifesting in our closest relationships in ways we may not immediately recognize. For instance, if you repeatedly find yourself in relationships where you feel undervalued or unappreciated, it may be a sign that somewhere in your shadow you hold a deeply ingrained belief about your own worth that has not yet been confronted. Perhaps, at some point in your life, you absorbed the idea that you are not deserving of being fully loved or respected. These unconscious beliefs act like magnets, pulling in people and situations that reinforce the same painful narrative. But this is not a punishment. It is an opportunity. It is an invitation to heal, to reframe the way you see yourself, and to shift the story you have been telling yourself for so long. Jung challenges us to do the inner work necessary to integrate the shadow. This is no easy task, but it is profoundly liberating. It requires observing our most uncomfortable emotions, recognizing our repetitive patterns, and examining the dynamics in our relationships. Instead of blaming others or external circumstances, we must ask ourselves, what part of me is creating this reality? What can I learn from this experience? This process of self-exploration does more than just heal old wounds. It also breaks the cycle of reliving the same painful experiences over and over again. Once you begin to acknowledge and make peace with these hidden aspects of yourself, something remarkable happens. The energy you project into the world changes. The people who once seemed to challenge or drain you begin to lose their hold over you. This does not necessarily mean that they change. It means that you change. your perception of them shifts, and in doing so, you reclaim your power. One of the greatest gifts of choosing peace is clarity. When you are aligned with your true self, you can see with greater precision which relationships support your growth and which ones do not. This does not always mean severing ties abruptly. It means learning how to establish healthy boundaries. Boundaries are not a form of rejection. They are an act of self-love. They are a way of communicating to the world and to yourself that your well-being matters, that your authenticity is non-negotiable, and that you are committed to honoring your inner truth. At first, setting boundaries can feel uncomfortable, especially if you have spent much of your life prioritizing the needs of others over your own. But every time you choose to honor your peace, you reinforce the message that you are worthy of respect, balance, and harmony. And as you continue on this path, you will find that the more aligned you become with your truth, the more naturally the right people, opportunities, and experiences will gravitate towards you. Letting go is never easy, but it is always worth it. Because on the other side of fear, on the other side of uncertainty, there is something far greater waiting for you, the life you were always meant to live. Jung reminds us that true growth often emerges from discomfort. Every time you choose to set a boundary, you are reinforcing your connection with your authentic self. You are affirming your right to live in peace and in alignment with your values. It is crucial to remember that you are not alone in this process. Everyone faces challenges in their relationships and on their journey toward authenticity. Jung spoke about the importance of individuation, a process through which you become the person you are truly meant to be. This transformation is neither linear nor swift. Rather, it is a profound journey that requires patience, self-compassion, and courage. However, every step you take toward authenticity has a ripple effect, not only improving your own life, but also positively influencing those around you. As you progress on this path, you will begin to notice shifts in the relationships you attract. People who align with your true essence will start appearing in your life. These relationships will not be devoid of challenges, but they will be rooted in mutual respect, support, and shared growth. They will inspire you to become the best version of yourself, rather than demand that you sacrifice parts of who you are just to fit in. Jung also taught us about the power of synchronicity, those moments when it feels as though the universe is conspiring in your favor. These experiences are not mere coincidences. They serve as confirmation that you are on the right path. When you choose inner peace and align with your truth, you begin to experience more of these synchronicities. It is as if the universe responds to your decision to live in coherence with your inner self. As you integrate your shadow and prioritize your inner peace, you will start to notice something remarkable. Your perception of the world changes. Jung firmly believed that our external reality is a reflection of our internal state. This means that when you commit to inner work, healing old wounds, and aligning with your values, the experiences you attract will begin to transform as well. For instance, perhaps in the past, you found yourself drawn to people who reinforced patterns of emotional dependence or constant criticism. By confronting the roots of these patterns within yourself, you will naturally start attracting more balanced and fulfilling relationships. This shift does not happen by accident. It is a direct result of your willingness to face your inner shadows and reclaim your authenticity. One of the most powerful tools for facilitating this transformation is conscious reflection. Jung emphasized the significance of dreams and emotions as guides into the depths of our psyche. The next time you experience conflict in a relationship or a persistent sense of discomfort, take a moment to pause and reflect. Ask yourself, what emotion am I feeling? And what is it trying to tell me? What underlying pattern or belief might be influencing my response? By answering these questions, you are building a bridge between your unconscious and your conscious mind, a bridge that is essential for living a more peaceful and fulfilling life. Choosing to confront these difficult questions instead of ignoring them strengthens your connection with yourself and consequently with the world around you. One crucial lesson we can learn from Jung is that inner peace is not a final destination, but an ongoing practice. It is not something you achieve once and effortlessly maintain. Rather, it is a continuous choice that requires commitment and self-compassion. There will be days when you feel tempted to revert to old patterns, to compromise in relationships or situations that do not truly align with who you are. In those moments, remember that every choice matters. Even the smallest steps toward authenticity have a significant impact. Another transformative practice is learning to trust in synchronicity. When you choose inner peace and align with your truth, you will begin to notice how certain people, opportunities, and experiences arrive in your life at exactly the right moment. Jung described synchronicity as a meaningful connection between seemingly unrelated events. These moments are not random. They are signals affirming that you are moving in the right direction. For example, after letting go of a relationship that no longer served you, you might encounter someone who deeply inspires you, or you might stumble upon an opportunity that perfectly aligns with your values. These experiences are a confirmation that your choices are creating positive changes in your life. Trust these moments and allow yourself to keep moving forward, even if the path is not always clear. When you prioritize your inner peace and commit to personal growth, you also transform the relationships already present in your life. Not all difficult relationships need to end. Some can improve significantly when you shift your perspective. By setting clear boundaries, communicating honestly, and showing up authentically, toxic dynamics can dissolve, making space for healthier connections. However, it is equally important to accept that not all relationships are meant to last. Some people enter your life for a season, to teach you specific lessons or to reflect aspects of yourself that need healing. Letting go of these relationships is not a failure. It is an act of self-love. It is a recognition that you deserve to surround yourself with people who support, inspire, and celebrate your authenticity. When you begin to live in alignment with your true self and choose inner peace over relationships that do not resonate with you, something profound starts to happen. You reconnect with your purpose. Carl Jung spoke of individuation as the profound journey through which a person becomes who they are truly meant to be. This process is not simple, nor is it always comfortable, but it is essential for achieving a life filled with meaning, fulfillment, and authenticity. Individuation requires breaking free from external expectations, societal roles, and the limiting beliefs that have accumulated over time. Instead of merely conforming to what others expect of you, you begin to explore who you really are and what you wish to contribute to the world. This transformative journey not only reshapes your personal life, but also profoundly influences the relationships you choose to maintain. When you are aligned with your true purpose, relationships that no longer resonate with your path tend to fade away naturally. There is no need to force separations or create conflicts. Rather, connections that do not support your growth will naturally lose their place in your life. At the same time, you will find yourself attracting individuals who share your values and who genuinely support your evolution. Jung also emphasized the importance of balancing the opposing forces within ourselves. Every human being is a mixture of contradictions, light and shadow, reason and emotion, intuition and logic. Inner conflict arises when we deny a part of ourselves in favor of another. For instance, you may feel drawn to relationships that provide security yet suppress your spontaneity, or to people who challenge you but fail to respect your boundaries. The path to inner peace is not about choosing one over the other, but about integrating these opposites into a harmonious balance that reflects your true self. When you achieve this balance, your relationships undergo a transformation. You no longer seek in others what you cannot find within yourself. Instead of depending on external sources to fill emotional voids, you begin to form relationships from a place of wholeness. A practical example of this process is learning to listen to your emotions without allowing them to control you. Jung believed that emotions are gateways to the unconscious, but he also warned of the dangers of becoming trapped in them. If a particular relationship consistently generates anxiety or frustration, rather than blaming the other person or suppressing your feelings, ask yourself, what is this emotion trying to reveal to me? What aspect of my shadow is being activated in this situation? Answering these questions allows you to make more conscious decisions that are aligned with your truth. This may mean setting boundaries, engaging in difficult conversations, or even letting go of certain relationships. But each time you choose to act from this place of clarity, you strengthen your connection with yourself and cultivate a sense of inner peace that is not dependent on external factors. Synchronicity, as Jung described it, becomes more evident when you align yourself with your true purpose. When you choose peace, you are not just making room for the right people and opportunities to enter your life. You are also sending a clear message to the universe that you are ready for something better. This act of faith in yourself sets off a chain of events that seem designed to help you grow and prosper. For example, after releasing a toxic relationship, you may suddenly encounter a mentor, a friend, or a partner who inspires and supports you in ways you never imagined. These encounters are not mere coincidences. They are the direct result of your decision to prioritize your emotional and spiritual well-being. Jung described this phenomenon as an alignment between the unconscious mind and the external world, a sign that you are living in harmony with your truth. However, it is important to remember that this journey is not linear. There will be days when you feel tempted to fall back into old patterns or to engage in relationships that no longer serve you. This is a natural part of the process and does not mean that you are failing. Every decision, no matter how small, that prioritizes your peace contributes to a cumulative effect. Over time, these choices build a solid foundation of authenticity and well-being. Jung also emphasized the crucial role of intuition in decision-making. We often ignore that inner voice because it does not align with logic or external expectations. However, intuition is the language of the unconscious, and learning to listen to it is a fundamental step in living in alignment with your true essence. When you prioritize your peace, you develop a heightened sensitivity to your intuition. You begin to recognize patterns in people and situations, distinguishing between what nourishes your spirit and what drains it. This level of self-awareness enables you to build more meaningful relationships and make choices that are aligned with your purpose. A key concept in Jung's work is projection, the idea that everything you perceive in others, both what you admire and what irritates you, is a reflection of something within yourself. When you experience conflict in a relationship, it is an opportunity to reflect on what these dynamics are revealing about your own psyche. By recognizing and working with these projections, you not only heal your relationships, but also the parts of yourself that need attention and care. Choosing your peace is not about isolating yourself from the world or avoiding relationships. Rather, it is about cultivating connections that reflect your authenticity. When you do this, the right people naturally appear in your life, and opportunities that align with your purpose begin to flow effortlessly. This is the transformative power of living in your truth. Jung's message about the impact of choosing peace over any relationship is not just an invitation for personal change, it is a powerful tool for transforming the world around you. Every time you prioritize your emotional and spiritual well-being, you contribute to a more authentic, meaningful, and possibility-filled environment. Now is your moment to take action. Reflect on the relationships and situations in your life that may be pulling you away from your inner peace. Ask yourself, what can I release to make space for what truly resonates with me? Do not underestimate the power of a conscious decision. Even a small step can set off profound changes. If this message has resonated with you, I invite you to be part of this movement toward authenticity and self-discovery. Share this video with someone who needs to hear these words, someone searching for inspiration to choose their peace and live in their truth. Together, we can create a community where Jung's teachings serve as a guide to transforming lives. Leave a comment below and let me know what part of this message touched your heart, or what action you are willing to take to prioritize your peace. Every interaction, whether it's a comment, a like, or a subscription, helps this content reach more people who are also seeking answers. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss future videos. This is just the beginning of a conversation that has the potential to change lives, including yours. Remember, transformation starts with you. By choosing peace, you are not only reshaping your inner world, but also influencing the world around you. Thank you for being part of this community. See you in the next video. Your authenticity is the greatest gift you can offer the world. If I told you that dreaming repeatedly about the same person speaks less about that person and more about you, you'd probably want to understand it right now. Because there are three common interpretations that almost always miss the point. Believing the dream is literal, believing it's a premonition, or believing it's just a meaningless emotional release. None of those three interpretations do justice to what's actually happening. The correct understanding, from the perspective of depth psychology, is far more powerful. Your psyche is trying to restore a spiritual balance and is pointing you directly toward the area of your consciousness that needs to grow. Stay with me, because you're about to discover a simple framework to decode your dream and a practical method to transform that repetition into genuine inner clarity. Let's begin with an essential principle. A dream is a living system of self-regulation. When something in your waking life goes to an extreme, a fixed idea, an unacknowledged emotion, a postponed decision, your dreams compensate. They don't show what's obvious, they show what's missing. That's why when the same figure appears again and again, it's not about one particular person, but about a field of meaning, an emotional complex, an archetype pressing to enter your awareness. On a spiritual level, this movement is not chaotic, it's teleological, meaning it's directed toward a deeper goal, your inner wholeness. Think of it as a call from your deepest center, trying to reorient your psychic life and guide you closer to the person you are meant to become. Before you start interpreting symbols, locate the core emotion of the dream. Identify it without embellishment. Anxiety, tenderness, desire, anger, shame, relief, peace, emptiness. That emotion is the key to the right door. If yearning or sweetness dominates, your psyche may be trying to reconnect you with a part of yourself you've been seeking outside. If guilt or threat dominates, it might be showing you a boundary you're not setting, or a truth you've been avoiding. Emotion is the color code of the message. Without it, everything gets confused. Now let's look at a 3-level framework for understanding why you keep dreaming of someone. Level 1. The personal symbol. The dream figure carries qualities that your psychological history has linked with a need: safety, recognition, challenge, freedom, containment, mystery, or power. This is the most concrete level. That presence represents a value, a trait, or a deficiency your conscious self has not yet integrated. Level 2. The emotional complex. When a strong emotion organizes itself around a recurring theme: rejection, abandonment, control, admiration, belonging, a complex is born. It thinks and feels on its own. You'll recognize an active complex if the dream pulls you emotionally even after waking, if you become obsessed during the day, or if automatic memories surface. Repetition is a hallmark of active complexes. Level 3. The archetype. At this level, the figure doesn't represent anyone in particular, but rather an impersonal pattern from the collective unconscious. The lover, the shadow, the guide, the child, the wise elder, the trickster, the great mother, the inner father, the inner opposite. When the dream's energy feels both luminous and frightening, you're in the presence of an archetype. This is the most spiritually charged level, and when it's activated, your external life often synchronizes with your inner world to highlight the message. Now let's move to the practical protocol. You don't need complicated tools, you need method and honesty. Step 1. Record immediately. Upon waking, write down 3 things: the dominant emotion, 2 powerful images, and the main action of the dream. Forget ornamental details, go straight to the core. Step 2. Name the desire and the fear that are implied. Ask yourself, what does this figure promise me? What does it protect me from? What it promises points to a lack. What it protects reveals a perceived threat. Step 3. Identify the contrast with your waking life. Where in your daily reality do you deny, minimize, or postpone what the dream intensifies? The unconscious compensates, so find the exact place of compensation. Step 4. Separate literal from symbolic. If the figure is someone you know, remove their name and write the presence that X represents. If the figure is unknown, describe their qualities: distant, warm, demanding, free, mysterious. Step 5. Trace the complex. If the emotion feels disproportionate, if you remain hooked, if you replay the fantasy, Recognize that a complex is active. Don't fight it. Observe it. A complex loses power when it is named precisely. Step 6. Detect the archetype. If there's a sacred feeling, if you sense that something greater is looking back at you through the dream, you're likely in contact with an archetypal image. Name it carefully: the bond, the guide, the shadow, and clear the fog. Step 7. Act in waking life. The dream asks for a gesture in the real world, setting a boundary, speaking a truth, beginning a morning process, dedicating time to a creative practice, maintaining a routine that honors the value symbolized. Without conscious action, repetition continues. Now let's explore the most common spiritual scenarios behind these repeated dreams. First, the projection of your unlived part. The psyche shows you externally what you're missing internally. It doesn't mean you should chase anyone. It means you should cultivate the quality the figure embodies. If the presence in the dream appears unattainable, your spiritual task is to move from idealization to incorporation. The right question isn't, why do I dream of this person? But what part of me is asking to be born through this image? The psychic energy wants to incarnate into habits, decisions, and your way of being. Second, the relational shadow. The recurring figure may hold traits you deny in yourself: possessiveness, coldness, manipulation, neediness, pride, victimhood, dominance, submission, rigidity. When these traits appear exaggerated, your psyche is asking you to acknowledge and work with them, not fight them blindly. Spiritually, denying the shadow is denying half of your map. Integrating it releases energy, and when that energy is released, the dream changes tone on its own. Not because of magic, but because you've listened. Third, the call to wholeness. Sometimes the figure doesn't compensate for anything specific. It calls forth the transcendent function, the dialogue between opposites that gives birth to a third path. If your days swing between extremes, control and abandonment, speed and paralysis, self-sacrifice and selfishness, the recurring dream might be offering you a living middle ground. You'll recognize this call because when you wake up, you're not trapped in one emotion, but held in a fertile awareness. Instead of blind longing or blind fear, there's a lucid, almost reverent question. That is the signature of genuine spiritual movement. Now, I invite you to a 7-night exercise to reorient the energy and test for yourself whether the meaning you sense is correct. Night 1. Intention. Before sleeping, write a precise phrase. Show me what quality of mind this figure represents and how I can embody it tomorrow. Don't ask if it's love or destiny. Ask for quality and action. Night 2. Containment. Avoid screens during the last hour before sleep. Breathe. Spend 10 minutes counting each exhale. This decompresses the entrance to the dream world and allows images to arrive without noise. Night 3. Symbolic dialogue. As you close your eyes, imagine placing the figure in front of you and ask 3 simple questions. What do you bring me? What do I give you that makes you return? What do you want me to do differently upon waking? Don't force anything. Just listen. Night 4. Minimal action. Whatever emerges, turn it into one small, concrete act during the day. If the message suggests freedom, make one sustainable gesture of freedom. If it suggests truth, speak an uncomfortable but necessary truth in a safe space. Night 5. Record variations. Observe whether the dream's setting changes, whether the figure moves closer or farther, whether the emotional tone softens or intensifies. The change in the dream is feedback. Night 6. Repair. If you sense the dream points to an omission, Make a reparative act, even a symbolic one. Write a letter you'll never send. Organize a neglected space. Close an unfinished cycle. Night 7. Creative offering. Transform one image from the dream into drawing, music, movement, prayer, or writing. Giving outer form to something inner anchors the energy and opens a new cycle. Let's talk about the mistakes that consume years of clarity. Mistake 1. Seeking external confirmations. The one who speaks your inner language is you. No one outside can replace your honest work with your own symbols. You can seek guidance to help organize, but never to delegate. Mistake 2. Chasing the image instead of the meaning. When the mind fixates on who it is, it loses sight of what it is. The dream is never a message about others. It's a message about you. It's your psyche, dressed in symbols, calling you to awaken. Not to the past, not to the person, but to the part of your soul that's ready to be seen. What is a figure in terms of quality and function? It holds, demands, reveals, challenges, soothes, pushes, and confronts. Mistake number 3. Creating empty rituals. When there is no conscious act in waking life, the repetitive dream often insists, refusing to yield. Spiritually, a symbol does not ask for worship. It asks for incarnation. You might wonder how to tell whether what you're facing is a projection of lack, the activation of a complex, or the emergence of an archetype. The difference is subtle, but crucial. In projection, the idealized quality shines outside of you, and upon waking, you feel an impulse to move outward, to chase, to find, to merge. In a complex, what shines is not the ideal, but the compulsion. You feel trapped in repetitive thoughts, emotional extremes, and the inability to focus. But when an archetype is at play, what radiates is sacred ambivalence, a deep fascination mixed with respect, attraction mixed with distance. It feels like standing before something larger than your personal story. So, what can you do with each of these? When it's projection, internalize the quality. Choose a practice that embodies it. Let it live through you, instead of chasing it outside of you. When it's a complex, observe, regulate, and lower the intensity. Name the central theme without judgment. Take care of your body, because complexes feed on exhaustion and overstimulation. And when it's an archetype, listen and bring order. Don't make sudden moves. Create space and let the symbol work within you, because archetypal processes move at a sacred, organic pace. There is a particularly delicate dimension. Dreams that seem like warnings. Sometimes, during the day, meaningful coincidences begin to appear, linked to the figure in your dream. But not every coincidence is a sign, and not every sign is a warning. To discern, look for what I call the double meaning. The coincidence should make sense outwardly, and also mirror precisely what's happening inside you. If it only amazes you by its rarity, it may be chance. But if it aligns with your inner process and brings inner order, then it could be a sign of convergence between your inner and outer worlds. When that happens, proceed with humility, expanded awareness, small steps, and constant verification through reality. Now let's move to the fine engineering of the symbol, because here lies your evolution. Ask yourself, what energetic quality does this figure carry? Firmness, warmth, independence, mystery, discipline, playfulness? What virtue must you cultivate to rise to its level? What boundary must you establish so that this energy doesn't overwhelm you? Notice when, during the dream, the figure becomes most intense. That peak reveals your point of work. If the emotion rises when you move closer, it may be about intimacy. If it rises when you move away, it may speak of detachment. If it appears when you fall silent, perhaps it's about expression. If it happens when you give in, maybe it's about autonomy. This analysis isn't intellectual. It's a form of symbolic literacy meant to serve your real life. Try this practice for 3 weeks. Each morning, answer in your journal. Just 5 lines, without censorship. What most attracted or repelled me about the figure was, if I had that quality in me today, I would. If I respected my boundary today, I would say, if the dream were a one-word instruction, the smallest action to honor it would be, at night, review if you acted on it. Don't judge yourself harshly. Judge precisely. Precision is rewarded with clearer dreams. Sometimes, the persistence of a dream is rooted in the ego's fixation on a savior fantasy, believing that if that dream figure materializes in real life, you'll finally feel whole. It's a tempting shortcut, but ultimately barren. The fertile path is the opposite. When you move toward wholeness from within, when your projections are integrated, your shadow recognized, and the qualities embodied, the external world reconfigures itself organically. Sometimes, the figure disappears from your dreams because its purpose is fulfilled. Other times, it remains, but now calm and benevolent, because your connection to your inner center is stronger. There's a subtle clue most people overlook: the setting of the dream. Where the figure appears speaks as loudly as the figure itself. A threshold indicates transition. A house points to psychic intimacy. A vehicle signals direction in life. A classroom represents learning. A temple reveals sacred dimension. A street speaks of the social. A hospital, healing. The sea, unconscious depths. A mountain, aspiration and trial. When the setting changes, but the figure remains, your psyche is shifting focus from who to where your growth is needed. Record the setting as if it were a character of its own. Now let's talk about the body. True spirituality does not escape the body. It inhabits it. Observe how you wake after a recurring dream. Tension in the chest, throat, stomach, each speaks its own language. The chest, love, belonging, grief. The throat, expression, truth, limits. The stomach, emotional digestion, fear, control. Spend 3 minutes breathing deeply into the tense area and ask yourself, what unspoken word or unrealized action has condensed here? Then choose a physical action that embodies the symbol's quality. Walk while thinking with clarity. Train your strength if the figure demands firmness. Stretch if it asks for flexibility. Cook with attention if it calls for care. Dreams resolve as much through the journal as through the hands. When the persistent dream figure represents the opposite of your conscious identity, your complementary energy, the work becomes more refined. It's not about imitation. It's about opening a channel for that energy to dialogue with yours. If you define yourself by control, allow moments of play. If by giving, learn to ask. If by speed, cultivate stillness. If by safety, embrace exploration. This internal exchange activates what Jung called the transcendent function. Two opposing forces that, by recognizing each other, create a third path. The repetitive dream often fades when that third path appears. How long does it take for such a dream to change? There are no clocks in the soul, but there are signs of progress. Less daytime compulsion, greater clarity about your true needs, and a quiet peace, free of euphoria. The figure may still appear, but no longer drags you. It walks beside you. That means the symbol has evolved. from tyrant to teacher, from teacher to ally. Keep a map of micro-spiritual acts for moments when you feel lost in the labyrinth. 1. Choose a small truth and express it with respect. 2. Set a simple boundary and hold it for 24 hours. 3. Dedicate 10 minutes to embodying the symbol's quality. If it's care, care for something living. If it's order, organize a drawer. If it's freedom, walk aimlessly. 4. Reduce sensory overload by 20% that day. Less noise, fewer screens, less consumption. 5. Write a single sentence summarizing your dream's lesson in the present tense. I am cultivating, I am releasing, I am learning. These micro-acts are keys. They don't force the door. They open it from the right side. It's vital to distinguish between chasing confirmations and creating evidence. Chasing confirmations means seeking external signs to validate your expectations. Creating evidence means acting according to the inner meaning and watching how reality responds. The first enslaves you to the symbol. The second restores your center. If your outer life begins to align, more honest relationships, clearer decisions, deeper calm, you're interpreting the dream correctly. But if you feel more dependent on signs and increasingly confused, it's time to restart the process from the beginning. Emotion, need, complex, archetype, action. Now let's end with a gesture of synthesis. Close your journal, release the complex interpretations, and simply ask, if this figure were to disappear from my dreams forever, what value would I still need to cultivate on my own? That single word you find is your immediate spiritual task. Write it down. Place it in your wallet or on your mirror. Each time you see it, take 1 minute to honor it through action. 1 minute may seem small, but repeated, it can change the trajectory of your entire life. Sometimes, a recurring dream holds an element of grief, not always for something you lost externally, but for something that never had the chance to be born within you. In such cases, the figure doesn't ask for union, it asks for farewell. The soul, too, longs to close windows that open onto landscapes that no longer exist. How do you recognize this kind of dream? The atmosphere no longer pushes, it softens. The figure walks away without threat. The dream grows brighter or quieter, and you awaken with a tender sadness. Do not try to hold on. That, too, is healing. Accompany the ending with a simple yet sacred ritual. Write a note of gratitude, release an object, mark the closure with a conscious act. Mature spirituality knows how to say goodbye. And there's another possibility, that the figure you keep seeing does not represent a relationship, but rather your vocation. Many people mistake what is actually a creative destiny for an emotional one. That recurring presence persists because it carries a mission, a work, a thread of service. How can you tell the difference? By the quality of the movement it leaves within you. If it pushes you toward a specific person, you are dealing with something relational.